So, hello and welcome to another session of Unleash Yourself, which is an initiative by women in Agile and Tech. I'm your host, Rakhi, and I'm associated with VAT from Chandigarh. VAT is a group of amazing women from different parts of the country who are working selflessly on various initiatives to contribute to the community in different ways. And today we have Jill from Greater New York City area. She is a CEO, founder, instructional designer, facilitator, a certified Vocablo visual trainer, and a coach. She co-creates transformative experiences with her clients that result in both immediate and long-lasting change. So for today's session, we request you to post your questions in the chat window, and I will keep taking up them up during the session. And also kindly keep yourself on mute if possible, and you can unmute yourself when you have any question to ask. And I've got with me my co-host Anjuman and host Deepthi. So over to you, Anjuman. You're
Hi,
on mute.
I'm
Yeah.
Anjum. Hi, I'm Anjuman, and I'll be helping Dipti and Raki for this initiative. Feel free to reach out to us for any queries, anything, any assistance that is needed during the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Deepthi.
No, I think it's all covered. Thank you so much, Raj. And very welcome, guys. And thanks a lot, Jill, for being here. And as Raki said, it's about WET, Women in Agile and Tech. And we have another powerful woman, Jill, with us. And Jill had been with us since starting of 2020, this crazy year. And Jill has really made our journey smooth in many ways. And also, thanks a lot to both of you, Rakhi and Anjuman, for stepping up and filling in for Charu and Sumiti. We miss both of them here, but for personal reasons, they couldn't be here. So let's get started. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, and so, hi again. My name is Jill Greenbaum. I am delighted to be here with you. I would like to invite everyone to go on camera because not only is it great to see everyone in the large group, you will be doing some work in pairs, and so it'll be important to also connect with the person that you're working with. So that is my invitation. I'll give you just a little bit of background about myself. I am a visual practitioner. So when I say Vocablo, that is a German company that has created a method for capturing in pictures and words what people are saying and doing. And I realize that some of you are on mobile devices and that you are not able to download some of the material. To that I say no worries at this moment. Because I have a sheet behind me that is exactly like one of the pieces in the file that I have sent you. And so if you pin the video, you'll be able to see that large. Of course, I will talk my way through it with you. And so let's get started. I just want to tell you a little bit also about my background in appreciative inquiry. And so I learned about it back in 2015 when I was at a conference in Berlin. And I heard a man speak about it and I said, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because I knew about the field of positive psychology and had done some training with Dr. Martin Seligman, who is one of the founders of the field of positive psychology. So I went through his Authentic Happiness coaching program out of the University of Pennsylvania back in 2004. So I knew about positive psychology. I started learning about appreciative inquiry, and there are many overlaps between those two fields. And I thought, gosh, I've got to start reading. And so I've been a consultant for over 20 years. So anyway, very quickly, this book is great for interpersonal relationships, taking inquiry and doing it interpersonally. And so that's really my story of how I got more deeply into it. I was the member of a board of directors and having, say, an uneasy relationship with a colleague. And I thought, you know what? The person I can change is myself. I can't change anyone else. I can't change the situation. And so what can I do to differently better relationship? I read the Dynamics relationship book. I took into account it really changed the relationship with this woman who was also, she was the board president. And so it's a real happy story for me that I was able to change my behavior that made a difference in our relationship so that we could go on and work together effectively. And that's how I came to this. I can't say good things about it. With that in mind, what I'd like to do is ask you a question. And I'm hoping that you have some paper in front of you. You can think, but having some paper and a pencil or a pen would probably be a great thing. And my question to you is this. What is the best thing that's happened to you today? So I'd like you to reflect on that for just a minute or two. Think over what's happened to you, and please write it down or draw a picture about it. I'm going to give us a little background music also, just for another minute. All right, and so I want to check in with you, and I would love to see answers to the question that I asked in the chat, or if you'd like to come off of mute, or share. Thank you. Nice, Lakshmi. So you're going to have to tell us a little bit about that. I see a car. Maybe you went for a trip. Maybe you'll come off of mute and just tell us.
So in Mumbai, we hardly get to drive a car because we are working from home. The best thing to happen today was I got to drive my car after a long time, for almost 3 weeks.
I get that. I hear you. Same thing. Okay, Deepti, what are we seeing there? Thank you, Lakshmi.
So I don't know, this year started fine, too much of work, and COVID happened, and I was really fine with that as well, I'll be honest, because I had my purpose and my drive. And then my boss changed. My new boss is really awesome, but my previous one was like inspiration. And so, yeah, nothing was very motivating. And like today, I've been waiting for few responses for a long time. And today they came morning. So that was, that just like all of this, but then this made me so happy.
That's great. And what is it a picture of that you drew? It looks like a diamond almost.
Oh, no, actually, that's a mail kind of.
Email. Got it. Beautiful. Thank you.
So, Jill, sorry, I don't have a paper and pen with me, but if I had it, I would have drawn a pizza because I had pizza today and that was after a very long time. So nice. I think that's one of the best things which happened to me. So we can imagine the picture of a pizza.
I got it clearly in my mind.
I
Thank
know.
you.
See? All right.
And Anjuman.
Yeah, so the best thing that happened to me, I got up early and I enjoyed tea with myself. So you can see the sun, tea, me, cool breeze.
Beautiful. And so thank you all for sharing your drawings. And of course, I'm hoping that you're putting some things in chat also, because I will take a look at chat when you're in your small group activities. But my question to you now is, how did it feel thinking about the best thing that happened to you today? Nice, Deepti. How did that feel to you?
Happy.
Yeah, happy?
Yep.
Nice. Absolutely. And you're welcome to come off of mute.
Jill,
go ahead. It's either Surya or Vibhav. Sorry, I probably pronounced that not quite right.
Thanks, Babu. So for me, it was satisfying because I wrote a poem yesterday. I wrote it and somehow I shared with someone on a call today. I was just going through some conversations, and when we were conversing, there came a point where I felt that I could resonate to that feeling, and when I uttered those lines, it really touched and moved, and so I made a connect in that point, and later in the day, I got a message back that it has helped. So that was it really made me satisfied, and made my day fulfilled in a way.
Beautiful. Thank you, Surya. Yes. And Vibha.
So it felt. I mean, the best thing that happened to me today was I mean, I'm trying to get into a routine of doing workout. So I couldn't maintain that. Today, I could start again and have 45 minutes of workout, and that's the best thing that happened. And when I was thinking about this, it made me feel good. It made me feel uplifted, and very positive.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts and for taking a moment to think about that. Let's talk a little bit about our agenda. And so once again, this may be the place where you want to pin the video so it's easier to look at for you. And for those of you that printed it out, we're going to start to work from this particular page. It's our agenda and also a note-making device. All right, so it's a template for you. So here we're talking about appreciative living and appreciating our lives. All right, so that's our goal. Seeing the positive in light. And we've already started doing that by the activity you just engaged with. All right. So I asked you about your best experience. And for those of you that have this, you might write down what that was right on this sheet. And then we're going to get into what is appreciative inquiry. All right, so we're not talking artificial intelligence, we're talking appreciative inquiry. And if everyone would also take the opportunity to mute, that would be, you're welcome to come off of mute when you have a question or something that you would like to add. Thank you. So let's describe, as we can see here, the first thing, we've done introductions, we're going to describe appreciative inquiry. We'll explain the 5 principles, as in I will explain, and we'll talk about the 5 appreciative inquiry principles. And then, of course, you'll do some exercises, and no doubt you will have insights about what you are talking about and what we are learning. And so with that in mind, and maybe just a show of hands here for a moment, who here is familiar with appreciative inquiry? You've heard of it before, you know a bit about it. A couple of hands around the room. Okay, so this is relatively new. I'm delighted to introduce it to you. So over 30 years ago, there was a doctoral student named David Copperrider, and his advisor was Suresh Srivastava. And they were at Case Western Reserve University. And so David started studying what was happening at a particular hospital in the state of Ohio and what was going on there and how were they getting such good results. And he noticed, though, in an effort to make the results even better, that in fact, people were focusing on problems, saying, well, if we look at the problem and we solve the problem, then things are going to get even better. When in fact, he realized that if people start to focus on what's working well and amplify it, make it even bigger and better, there's an opportunity for inspiration and growth. Because think about it yourself. When you have a problem or something's not going well, if you put your attention into saying, gosh, this is awful, and how am I going to solve this? Sometimes it's not so inspiring, and we don't move in that direction. But if we think instead, what are we doing well? What are other people doing well that we can learn from? And how do we apply that to the issue right in front of us? Will we be inspired to do even more and to think even differently? And so that became the field of appreciative inquiry. So it's really AI is the search for the best in people, in institutions, and in the world around you. So it's a systematic discovery of what gives a system life, what makes it effective and capable. And that could be economically, ecologically, what's happening, and in human terms. So it is a look at what's working. And so when you pay attention to what's working and what's possible, you feel more hopeful, you feel good, you become inspired to change. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that we don't recognize that sometimes things aren't going well. I mean, our brains actually do that for us all the time, right? We know that our brains keep us safe. They protect us. And sometimes there's an over focus on the negative, like this isn't working, or this is bad, or this is wrong, and we need to fix it. And so appreciative inquiry says, well, we don't forget about the things that aren't working well, but maybe we look at them as gifts or opportunities for learning, that we can shift the way that we look at it. And so appreciative living is all about a complete view of life. So the positive and the negative. And for some of us, it means we need to rewire our brains a little bit and get into different habits so that we are intentionally changing our thought patterns and are able to do that more easily. So there are 5 principles. So at this point, or at this part of the agenda, there are 5 key principles of appreciative inquiry. And so I'm going to name all 5 of them for you and talk about them a little bit. So you may want to take a couple notes. It's completely up to you. So the first we'll talk about is constructionist. And I'm also just going to write that up there. So once again, it may be easiest for you to see if you pin the video.
Jill, is it okay to interrupt you?
Yes.
Okay. So Jill, I wanted to come back to your the problem statement where you told instead of focusing what the problem is, it's better focus on what's working well, right? Is that what you summarized? Is my understanding correct?
Yes.
Okay. But I don't know, it's my thought right now. Until we get to know what the problem is, how we will come to know that where it is working well and that we can adopt it. But my point is we need to know about the problem.
And AJ, I would not disagree with you. I'm asking you to consider shifting the lens and not to focus on what's wrong, to say this is what is and make it neutral. This is the situation we are in now. What can we find that is good in it that we can work with to turn it around? And so I'm going to ask you to hold that question in your mind as we continue through all 5 principles and the exercises, and then see if you can see some possibility of using this. All right, so I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to offer up some ideas around it.
Sure.
I'm hoping that's helpful. Thanks for raising that, AJ, really important.
Thank you.
So, of course. And so, and thank you also for asking about whether you should ask questions throughout. That's really my preference. I'm not going to leave 15 minutes at the end for everyone's question, because I'm a teacher at heart, and I know when you have a question, it's uppermost in your mind and you want to get an answer. You don't want to wait. It could get in your way of learning, and I don't want that to happen. Okay?
So just one quick question.
Yes.
How is appreciative inquiry anyway related with the humble inquiry? I'm referring to the work by Edgar H. Shkane, or they are totally different things altogether.
You know, I have to tell you, Deepti was talking about that before we started the call. She was saying she had just been on a call about that. And I have to tell you, in complete honesty, that I know nothing about that. So after we're done, though, I'm going to go look it up, because now you've made me very curious. So maybe, and of course, everyone, my email address, as you can imagine, is jill@jillgreenbaum.com. You're welcome to write me with any questions. I love to have ongoing conversations. So I really appreciate that question. Thank you for asking. And so let's talk briefly about the constructionist principle. And it is that we construct our stories, and our story is just one perspective. There are always multiple perspectives about what's going on. So we need to hold reality lightly, because oftentimes we think, let's just say someone's acting a certain way, and we decide that they're angry at us. What we might not know is they had a car crash on the way in. They weren't lucky like Lakshmi and had a great car ride today, right? Or they have a migraine headache, or they're thinking about a meeting they need to go to. We just know they didn't respond to us in the way that we anticipated. So sometimes we assume, gosh, they must be angry at us. What have I done? So the point here is we need to look at the story we're creating and see if there's actually any evidence for it or not. And so, quite honestly, the way we know things or the way we think about things affects our actions. So that's the constructionist principle, the first one we're talking about. The second one we'll talk about is called the poetic principle. And the poetic principle is about the fact that we have the license, the ability to create, to interpret, and to focus our stories. And whatever we focus on expands, right, in our mind. So for us, life is an open book. And I have a coaching background, as was mentioned at the beginning. And so one of my favorite books when I was going through coaching school was Taming Your Gremlin. So the Gremlin Taming books by Rick Carson, because what he talks about is our spotlight of attention. It's when we pay attention to something, it's as if we're putting a spotlight on it and it becomes even bigger. So our choice is, do we want to put a spotlight on what isn't working well and how we're having a hard time and not think towards a positive future? Or do we want to look at what's working here and how do we make it even more? So that's our poetic principle. And so actually, the first exercise that I asked you to complete, which was think about the best thing that's happened to you today, that was an example of the poetic principle. Right? I could have said, think of the worst thing that's happened to you today. I don't know about you, but I was at a meeting once not too long ago where the opening question, it's a number of facilitators at this meeting, and the opening question was, well, how are you coming to the meeting today? What's going to get in the way of it being a successful meeting? And I'm like, are you kidding me? What kind of question is that? Now I'm putting all my energy on what isn't working. Instead of, what are you bringing to the meeting today? What do you have to contribute? What are you looking forward to? What do you want the end of the meeting to look like? What will we have accomplished? Those are the kinds of questions that are inspiring, that get people to move forward. And so I'm not negating that there might be some conflicts. There might be ideas that we need to work on, but it might be, I've got an idea for the issue that we're facing. That might be what someone raises. And so that's the twist in what we're talking about.
So are you saying
And so
we should have a positive synergy, basically?
yes, I am. And I'm not saying to deny reality. I am saying, though, we can choose how we look at it. Thanks for adding that. And I'm going to pause here. I know, being a New Yorker, I tend to speak very quickly. So it's always okay. Good. It's always okay to say, I have give me a minute. I'd like to ask a question. All right. So I'm going to ask you at this moment to close or lower your eyes. If closing your eyes is comfortable, we're just going to do a very brief, not even 30-second visualization here. All right. And so as you close your eyes or you lower them, I'm going to ask you to think about your day tomorrow and pick one word that best captures the way that you want to feel tomorrow. So I'll give you a moment to think about that. All right, so I'm guessing at this point that you have thought of that word. And now think of your day ahead tomorrow and imagine yourself feeling this way throughout the entire day. Mentally, step through your routine and the various activities that you have planned and see yourself moving through them with this ideal feeling. Remember, you can't control what other people do or situations, so allow everything that's outside of you to stay the same. Focus only on your inner experience. Start to think about how you will see this ideal day unfolding, along with what you see yourself doing and saying and thinking that is helping to make it happen. So I'm going to be quiet for about half a minute or so and let you get that image firmly in your mind. Then we'll open up eyes and come back together. And so would you come back, please? And what I'd like to do, although I seem to have lost the capacity to make breakout rooms, is I'd love to have everyone go into pairs, and that would be 11 pairs. And so I'm wondering if my fellow co-hosts have that capability. Terrific. So we can leave me out and we can put everybody else in. It'll be perfect with 22 people. And please take the next 8 minutes or so to chat with your partner about what that experience was like. What did you learn from doing this visualization exercise? So it's what did you learn? As you reflect on your vision, did you notice about yourself that helped you to create your ideal day? And how will having done this exercise make your day go better tomorrow? So those are the questions.
Just a quick question. How we will make a pair here? That I'm not aware of it within this room.
Because it will be done through breakout rooms. So it'll be done for you, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to run through those questions again. I didn't get a chance to pop them in the chat. And so, what did you learn from doing the exercise? Question number 1. As you reflect on your vision, what did you notice that helped you create this ideal day? What about your thinking did you notice? And how will having done the exercise make your day go better tomorrow? So pick one or pick several of those questions. I will start the timer as soon as you all go into breakout rooms. And thank you for doing that, Deep Tea.
How long do you want to, keep this?
8 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
8 minutes. So you'll keep an eye on that since I am not able to. Terrific. So it's 7 minutes. We'll just send the notice to people.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I can always perhaps visit where you are.
No, but one of the collaboration thing which I need to learn here that online within this whole group, how can we make a pair so that they can talk individually like a room? That is something which I need to learn.
Yeah, and so we can talk about that later, but you're going to get a pop-up window that you click on, and the technology will do it for you. We're expecting 4 more people. Someone was here briefly and she left. We should have 2 more pairs coming back. I did put the file in the chat again, just in case anyone came on a little late. The file has this in a smaller format for you to print out as a good place to make notes. All right. We're still missing a couple of folks, and yet we are here, so I will move forward and we can catch them up. What I'd like to do is just check in with you and see what that was like. So there were a couple parts to it. You were thinking of your day tomorrow. You were picking one word, a value, a feeling, and then imagining your entire day and how you would act, knowing that you can only work with yourself. You're not changing other people. You may not be able to change the situation. And then you were sharing that with a colleague. So who would care to come off of mute perhaps, or you're welcome to go in chat and share a couple of thoughts about that. We'll take just 2 or 3 minutes to do that.
Yeah, I can start if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right. So I had an excellent conversation with Bala Ganesh. He was my peer in the conversation, and 2 things which stood out was one, like for me, it's a working day tomorrow. So I thought I'll get more positive going in tomorrow through all my meetings and everything. And whereas the rest of the world, it's a holiday. So it's a kind of a different format. And I don't know if Bala can come on and talk, because he had some excellent things planned out. And I was really impressed. I would rather you hear from him.
Yeah, thanks, Neeraj. So
Sure.
we discussed a lot with respect to how this exercise will help us, and also how it's going to make our tomorrow a better day. So I gave my perspective of how I am going to spend tomorrow. So it's more of it's a full day of prayer, meditation, and reading reflective books, because it's a Ekadasi day which I habituatedly do and reflect back the things the entire day. So this is what I shared to Neeraj. Yeah, and this is the day I would wait for, because I would get that what you can say power to take a step back and clearly charge uh, myself with the ancient practices that would help me in nurturing the inner strength. So this is what I shared with Neeraj, and I'm committed to do it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and very quickly, and after talking to Bala, I'm thinking of taking a day off tomorrow and do all of that what he's planning to do.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow, a very powerful conversation then. Would anyone else care to share in chat or by coming off of mute
Yeah.
briefly tell?
This is Lakshmi. Yeah. So I had a conversation with Surya, and the conversation went on beautiful, and he shared about what he would want to do tomorrow and about the visualization. But what we learned something in common was that, if we visualize for tomorrow, what I'm going to do. So what matters to me is that, I want to relax tomorrow on being a Sunday. I want to do a lot of exercises, then relax, and then be creative in the second part of the day, and that's how my Sunday I would want to be ideally. Okay. What we realized was that if we visualize tomorrow, so at least our baseline is set and our day will be better than what we have actually visualized. If we were not to visualize it, it will just go adrift.
And so, Lakshmi, let me ask you a question, if I may, and that is, did you pick a word, meaning a feeling or a value, that you would carry through with you? Because it's more than just visualizing what you will do. It might be visualizing relaxation, right? I'm going to be relaxed during the day, or I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be kind and loving with everyone I meet, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, it's relaxation and innovation.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, Deepti, go ahead.
We have time then. You just made me think of the most beautiful memory of the day, although, it had not been great, just too much of work with no interest. And what that did, it triggered a lot of optimism in me. Then you said construct, build over it. So I told you I was waiting for this mail, and I was just thinking, this is a scheme and things don't easily work and all of that. But at least I got acknowledgement. So it's not approved and nothing, but I got acknowledgement that they are looking into it. And so then you said poetic, and you said what we focus grows. And I was like, okay, Deepti, focus, and it may grow. I mean, there are bright chances it might not grow, but it may grow.
Absolutely.
Jill, if it doesn't grow?
It will grow.
Well,
I'm sure it'll grow. So be positive. Yes. That was my word for tomorrow, positive.
There you go. And it may be to look for some other piece of it. So we're going to continue with this thought in our final activity. But let's learn about the remaining types, the remaining principles. So the next one is simultaneity. And I did drop the file in the chat again. So simultaneity is about the moment we ask a question, we simultaneously begin to move towards the answer. So questions are powerful tools for change. And so we talked about this before. What kinds of questions do you want to be asking? Do you want to say to the people in your meeting, what are you bringing here that's going to get in the way of our doing a good job today? Or do you want to say, what are you bringing that will move us forward, that will excite and energize us, that will help us handle the issues that we're facing? All right, so that is the principle of simultaneity. Change happens the moment you ask the question. The next area that we will go to, let's see, hold on, I have so many markers here, as Deepti knows, and Lakshmi, and Sipson. All right, so I found my marker again. The next one we're talking about is positive.
Can you repeat about simultaneity?
Will I say it again?
Simultaneity. Can you repeat that? Yeah.
In terms of what it is? Sure. So simultaneity has to do with the moment we ask a question, we begin to change what's going to happen, right? It's the type of question that we ask. It's the power of our question. And so my example was, there are two different ways you could open up a meeting, right? Or there are different ways you could speak to your partner or your kids or your parents. You could be saying, how are you doing? Which is very big and broad, and you might get all kinds of answers. Or you could talk about what's the best thing that happened to you today. I mean, anyone that's a parent or aunt and uncle or a caregiver, you know that if you say to your child, how'd your day go? You get, good, okay, terrible. But if you say, what's the best thing that happened to you today at school? You are going to get a completely different answer, and you'll actually have a conversation with your child as opposed to just going different directions because there's not a lot more to say. So that's important. Okay. And so let's talk about the principle of being positive. All right, and so that's focusing on the positive aspects because that creates what we call upward spirals. So we've talked about building on existing strengths instead of fixing weaknesses. And so that's really coming from, in large part, the field of positive psychology. And so the more positive the image or the question that we are asking, the more positive the action that we will have. So our questions move us in a direction. So you can see that connects with simultaneity. And then the last one, and I'm looking just to see if anyone's raising a hand or coming off of mute. I'll put up the last one. And that is anticipatory. And of course, they're not in any particular order. I just need to have an order to present them. But anticipatory means that we live into the futures that we imagine. We can deliberately change the future by visualizing what we want. We move in the direction of the images that we hold. And that's like the activity that you just did. And I'm hoping that you'll think of it tomorrow morning when you get up and think about, what was that word? What was that feeling that I want to have today? And how will what I imagined be similar to what happens during the day? Knowing that we can't control everything, right? Other people or situations, but we can work to control ourselves and how we approach things. So those are the 5 principles. I would just want to check in with you around those.
Jill, I'm so sorry. I was actually drawing. So now you have to please repeat again quickly about the last 2. I'll not bother you again. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So positive, the piece about being positive is that we focus on the positive aspects of situations and we create upward positive spirals. So I'm thinking, of a spiral, Deepti, as I'm doing that. That's what I would draw. We build on our strengths instead of working to fix weaknesses. And I have to say that resonates for me so much because I was a teacher for children with special education needs. And if I only focused with them on what was going wrong or what was hard or what they couldn't do, I would have had an impossible time working with them. Who likes to be told what they're not doing well, right? What you find is, what is your strength and how can we use that strength to help with the areas where you have some challenges, right? And so I would recommend, if this interests you or you're curious, the book Authentic Happiness by Dr. Martin Seligman. And that's Seligman. But Authentic Happiness is the name of his work. And I am totally fascinated by this. So if you want more information, by all means, send me an email and we'll chat. All right, so that was positive, Deepti. And anticipatory is we live into the futures that we imagine. We can deliberately change the future by visualizing what we want. We move in the directions of the images that we hold in our mind. And this is not psychobabble. All right. This is proof. If you look at any of the Olympians, right? So I think of the American Michael Phelps, who was the swimmer that broke so many records. If you read about what he did to do that, he was heavily into visualization and every single step, not just the end where he has the medal. It was, what do I do in my warm up? How am I shaking my arms? How am I loosening up? How am I stepping onto, the board where I dive into the pool? How am I swimming? What are my strokes? When do I touch finally when the race is over? And what does that feel like? So visualization is well documented. So there is scientific research behind this. Once again, another interesting thing to look up if that's your thing. But that is the piece around anticipatory. And those are the 5 principles. And so honestly, what we want to do is be aware of these 5 principles, because self-reflective awareness is what will help us apply these principles to our lives. And so there's a great quote by a man named Alan Kay, and it is, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So really inspirational. And so there's always a positive side, and that's what we're going to talk about now. And so we're going to move. So this was, if you had any notes, if you had the opportunity to print this out, if you had any notes about tomorrow, you might have put what your word here was. You might have done a little drawing or writing here. The next thing we're going to do is move into this piece where there are 3 panels. And so we'll talk about those in a minute. That was also the second handout out of the 3 pages in the file. So that's the second one if you have that available. So in a moment, you're going to think in terms of creating a story that has 3 main parts to it, or 3 panels. So I'm going to ask you now to think, and we're not naming names here, okay? This is all keeping it to ourselves in terms of who this person is or the situation. But think of a person or a situation that angers, frustrates, or saddens you, or causes you to feel some kind of negative emotion. So I'm going to give you a moment to bring someone to mind. So it doesn't have to be big and deep. It might be a minor disagreement or seeing things differently. But think of a situation or a person that angers, frustrates, or saddens you, or causes you some negative emotion. Now, take a few minutes to focus on the positive side by using the story panels. So the story panels, they each have a question. So you might want to write this down if you don't have the handout. The first one here is, what can I learn from this situation? Like, what do I know about it? How can I think about this? All right. So what might I learn from this? What good can I find in this situation? Where is there some good here? And how is my life better as a result of thinking about and maybe even experiencing this situation? So I'm going to give you an example because it may be hard to figure out, how do I take my example and fit it in?
What's the last question?
The last one is, how is my life better? And it could be, what is the opportunity here? Might be another way of looking at it. So I'm going to give you an example. Sipson and I were talking a little bit. We were in a paired group, and we asked about each other's families because we had done training together. And so I'm going to talk just for a moment about COVID-19. I know people talk about it all the time, but it's something, an example everyone can relate to. So what can I learn from this situation? And so what I'm thinking about is that my daughter, who is 33, lost her job 2 weeks after COVID and came home to live with us. And she'd been living on her own since she went to college. So 15 years of living on her own, being a young adult at 33, living in Brooklyn, you know, having the life that she really wanted. And now she loses her job. And because the company just completely downsized, got scared, and has to come and live out in the suburbs, not in New York City, not in her apartment, and has to worry about the future. When will I get another job? This is going to be so difficult. So as you can imagine, all of us felt the effects of it. My work changed, my husband's work changed, and so we're all living together, and we haven't done that in a very long time. So what can I learn from this? I can start to think about, well, who do we want to be as a family? And how do we want to be with each other during these challenging times? So what good can I find in this? One example I have is, my daughter and I started taking walks of 2 to 3 miles every night to get out of the house, to be with each other, and just have a conversation, to connect with each other. In spite of all the work that we were trying to get done during the day, her looking for a job, me trying to gain more work and all that kind of thing. So the good was, I developed a closer relationship with her because of that. And so my life is better, quite honestly, because this happened. It would never have happened if COVID hadn't happened. Now, do I think COVID is a good thing? Am I glad that we had it? Absolutely not. But can I find some good in it? Absolutely. And so that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Please take the next 2 or 3 minutes to just sketch out some ideas of what's the situation, what can I learn, what piece of good can I find, and how is my life better? So take 2 or 3 minutes, and then you're going to go once more into a paired activity to share with each other. So you're just going to talk about it. You don't have to have things written down, but I want you to at least think about those 3 parts, okay? So I'm just going to put on my timer for 3 minutes and stop talking so you can think. All right, and my timer is about to go off. And so Deepti, this time, would you make 8 pairs? Well, actually, we have 18 people now. So we can do 9 pairs and I can just work with someone, and let's just do 6 minutes, okay?
Oh, you keep getting great pairs. So I had Ashwarya, and time just flew by. So
Oh my goodness.
first time it flew by with Bala Ganesh, and now it flew by with Ashwarya. So the pairing
It's
is
great,
helping.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but to my surprise, my pair was with the same friend, Neha.
Wow. Now, what are the odds of that happening?
We could do the math, but we're not going to
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
not. So,
And so as people are coming back, what I'd like to do is ask you about that experience, about thinking about something that's challenging or difficult for you, a person, a relationship, a situation, that kind of thing. And then working your way through the 3 panels of the story and looking for that silver lining or what's good and how it is an opportunity for you. So what are your thoughts about that? And every thought is welcome.
So actually, Jill, I don't know, before sharing those what we have discussed, your 3 panel, it reminds me as one of the approach which I usually follow there. And I'm sorry, again, I'm going back to the problem statement there. I go, what was the situation or a problem? What are the different approach or thought I have gone through? And what was the outcome of that, whether it is a pass or fail? Based on the result, what was my learning? I think, is that something I'm relating with your this visualization panel technique here as well? Is it somewhere
I
related?
want to take a phrase from the field of improvisation and say yes and, because AJ, you're still, I don't want to say stuck, but you're still hanging out with the problem piece, as
Exactly.
opposed to looking at the situation as this is what it is. This is what it is. What is good in it? Not what did I do before? Not what's the problem? What is, or what did I do before that worked? That would be one way to go. But this really is different. And maybe if it interests you, you want to do more reading in this regard, because it's not a problem solving technique. This is a change management technique that has been around for over 30 years that walks away from problem solving.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of research behind it that may be helpful. There are lots of case examples in David Copperwriter's book about appreciative inquiry. So it may be, if it interests you, something to take a look at.
Sure. Sure. Thank you.
And so let's hear from other folks. Any other thoughts about this experience?
yeah. I mean, I can speak, but I didn't want to go again because last time I spoke first. So I thought I would give others an opportunity to speak. So if nobody else wants to speak, then I can speak. So.
Well, we'll finish up in the next 5 minutes or so because I don't want to keep people too late. I'm happy to stay, but I know it's late for you. But start us off, Niraj.
Sure. And I think Ashwarya and Ashwarya, feel free to jump in any minute. Had similar thoughts, I mean, we both talked about if we had a difficult person to work with, and how frustrating it can be. So how we can try to influence the person to get better. That's the change management aspect of it. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. It's
Sorry,
actually not. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I want, if there's one thing to take away,
that'll be
it's
great.
not,
Yeah.
It's not about changing other people. And first of all, people aren't difficult. Behaviors of people
Yes,
are difficult.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to label a whole person as difficult, because then we got nowhere to go. Right. We can say this behavior.
Yes,
right?
the words are very important. I agree with you totally over there.
The other piece is, we're not going to change other people unless you have power and control over them. Maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a boss, you're not changing people's behavior. People change themselves. In appreciative inquiry, the only person we are looking to change is ourselves. and changing our behaviors, because when we act differently with other people, they might just act differently with us.
Excellent point. And I'm totally with you. And I'm glad I brought this up, because I think this clarifies to the whole group over here, what's right and what's wrong.
Well, and it's so easy, right? It's so easy to think, oh, that person did something I don't like, or this is a terrible situation and it should change.
That's normal human tendency. I'm always right and the other person doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Right. And we want to move away from.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what
we
I'm saying.
We want to move away from right or wrong. We want to talk about the stories that we create, because that are only one perspective.
If you get into the right or wrong, then you're going back to what Ajay was pointing out. You're going back to the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to avoid. And then maybe use these 5 principles.
Exactly.
And always wear other shoes. That helps a lot.
Right. Or to imagine that, or to ask questions out of curiosity instead of judgment.
Yeah. That's why I was using the word empathize with them. I mean, to understand what really is the reason.
Right. So. Empathize with them and work on ourselves, right? It's a continuous project, right? We're human beings. We are always in a state of transformation.
I'm always learning. So
hopefully we all are. That is a great thing to say. Absolutely.
Right.
And so we'll wrap up here. Once again, I'm happy to stay. I know other people may go. There's information in the file that I sent you, what's behind me, a bigger piece where you can write out story panels. I also offer an appreciative learning circle. So I gave you information about that, which is geared only towards the people that were here or folks in India. Nice, Deepti.
Deepti is displaying something.
Please, let's show us before we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Amazing.
Oh, sweet. Very nice. Terrific. So if I can be helpful in any way, by all means, reach out to me through email. If you're interested in the Appreciative Learning Circle, I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for being here and spending time in your evening.
Well, thank you, Jill. I think we really appreciated this. At least I appreciated the session. It was enlightening. So.
Yeah, it was a must in these times, especially. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Great.
Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And until next time, Jill, we look forward to more of your sessions. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take good care.
You too. You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. See you again.
Bye, Jill. Bye, Deepti. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.